Hey, everyone. I never thought I'd be whispering this into the dark to a heart hammering against my ribs like it's trying to escape. But here I am. I can't keep carrying it alone anymore. I'm sleeping with my wife's mother. I don't know how much longer I can pretend everything is normal under this roof. My wife and I have been married 8 years now. Weekends tangled up in sheets that smelled like us. But somewhere along the way the spark just died. Conversations turned into lists of bills and who's picking up groceries. We barely touch anymore. Nights she falls asleep facing the wall, and I lie there staring at the ceiling feeling invisible. So damn lonely it aches in my chest like hunger that food can't touch. I told myself this is just what marriage becomes, that everyone feels this way eventually, until her mother, Eleanor, moved in 6 months ago after her divorce. Elena is only 47th, still so stunning it catches me off guard every single time. Those soft, full curves that her simple dresses can't quite hide, that warm, easy smile that reaches her eyes, and always that gentle vanilla and jasmine scent that drifts through the house like a secret. She came to stay just until she gets back on her feet. But 6 months later she's still here, filling the spaces my wife and I stopped filling long ago. She's always around now, in the kitchen humming softly while she cooks, the steam rising around her while I work from home at the dining table. Folding laundry in the living room, her hands moving so carefully over our clothes. Late at night, when my wife has already gone upstairs and the house is quiet, Elena pads down for a glass of water, that silk night gun catching the moonlight just enough to make my throat go dry. At first everything felt innocent. Harmless. She'd brush past me reaching for a mug on the high shelf, her arm grazing mine for half a second. Enough to send warmth spreading under my skin, or she'd laugh at one of my lame jokes and her hand would linger on my shoulder just a beat too long. Fingers light but impossible to ignore, I started noticing little things I had no right noticing. How the thin fabric of her robe shifted when she moved, how her hair fell across her neck when she tilted her head. Every single time I'd catch myself and think, stop. She's your mother-in-law, this is wrong. You can't be looking at her like that. But the thoughts wouldn't leave. They'd follow me upstairs, lying there next to my sleeping wife, breathing steady and unaware. I'd replay the way Elena's fingers felt when she passed me the remote earlier. So soft, so warm. This is wrong, I'd tell myself, over and over like a prayer I didn't believe. She's family. What kind of man am I turning into? Yet the ache inside kept growing, quiet but insistent, pulling me back downstairs even when I swore I wouldn't. Her scent on the couch pillows, that faint vanilla and jasmine. It lingered like an invitation I was too weak to refuse. Then came that stormy night when my wife was away on a business trip. The power went out suddenly, thunder rolling so close the windows rattled. Elena and I ended up in the living room with nothing but a few candles flickering between us. She was shivering in her thin robe, arms wrapped around herself, looking smaller than usual in the dim light. I grabbed a blanket from the couch and draped it over her shoulders, trying to be the decent son-in-law. But when my hands settled there, our eyes locked. And neither of us looked away. The rain hammered against the roof like it knew what was coming. The air between us felt thick, charged, like the storm had slipped inside the house. Her hand found mine under the blanket, just fingers brushing. Then staying. Before I could pull back, before I could remember all the reasons this could ruin everything. I leaned in. The first kiss tasted like the red wine we'd shared earlier. Sweet, warm, and so forbidden it sent electricity racing through every nerve. Her skin was impossibly soft against mine, her breath catching in a way that made my chest tighten. All my careful resistance just shattered. I knew right then there was no going back. Every time I close my eyes, I still feel that kiss hovering on my lips, pulling me deeper into something I don't know how to stop. At first it was innocent. Or at least I told myself it was. Elena would reach for a mug on the high shelf while I sat at the dining table pretending to focus on my laptop. Her arm would graze mine for the briefest second, just enough for that faint vanilla and jasmine warmth to brush my skin and linger like smoke. She'd laugh softly at one of my tired jokes and her fingers would rest on my shoulder a moment longer than necessary. Light as a secret, I started noticing things I had no business noticing. The way her silk nightgown shifted against her when she moved through the kitchen light, how a single strand of hair would fall across her collarbone when she tilted her head to listen to me. Every single time I'd catch myself staring and think, stop. She's your wife's mother. This is dangerous. You can't let your eyes wander there. But the thoughts refused to leave. They'd trail me upstairs like shadows, lying beside my sleeping wife, her breathing slow, and even in the dark, I'd replay the exact pressure of Elena's hand when she passed me the remote earlier that evening. So warm, so deliberate. This is wrong, I'd whisper inside my head, over and over like a warning I was already ignoring. She's family. What kind of husband am I becoming? Yet that quiet take kept swelling, slow and heavy, drawing me back downstairs, even when I swore I'd stay in bed. Her scent on the couch cushions, that soft vanilla and jasmine. It clung to the fabric like an unspoken promise I was too weak to push away. Then came that stormy night when my wife was away on a business trip. The power cut out without warning, thunder cracking so close the windows shook. Elena and I found ourselves in the living room with only a handful of candles flickering between us, casting long trembling shadows. She sat there shivering in her thin robe, arms hugging herself, looking suddenly fragile in the dim glow. I reached for the throw blanket from the back of the couch and draped it gently over her shoulders, telling myself I was only being kind, but when my hands settled there, our eyes met. And neither of us looked away. The rain pounded against the roof like it could hear my pulse racing. The space between us felt alive, heavy with something neither of us named. Her fingers found mine under the blanket, just a brush at first. Then they stayed, warm and trembling, before I could remember every reason this would destroy us, before I could pull back and pretend nothing was happening. I leaned closer. The first kiss carried the taste of the red wine we'd shared earlier. Sweet, deep, and so completely forbidden it sent heat rushing through me like lightning finding ground. Her skin felt impossibly soft beneath my touch, her breath catching in a soft hitch that made my chest tighten with need. In that single suspended heartbeat, every wall I'd built inside myself simply crumbled. I knew. Deep down, there was no stepping back from this edge. The days that followed blurred into stolen glances and careful silences. While my wife was at the office, Elena and I would linger in the guest room during quiet afternoons, the door barely clicked shut. The way she moved against me felt like coming home to something I'd forgotten I needed. Slow, certain, filling the emptiness I'd carried for years. Her soft sighs mingled with that familiar jasmine scent wrapping around us both, making me feel seen again, wanted again, alive in a way I hadn't been in so long. For the first time in ages, I wasn't just drifting through the motions of marriage. I was burning, yet every night the guilt crept in like cold fog. When my wife leaned over to kiss my cheek goodnight and whispered, "I love you," Elena's name would echo in my mind from the dark hours before. I'd jump at every unexpected sound in the house, terrified one careless moment would tear everything apart. Still, I couldn't stop. The relief she gave me ran too deep, the hunger too sharp to deny. I started risking more without meaning to. A quick brush of fingers in the hallway while my wife showered upstairs, the way Elena's eyes would hold my Nasakin too long across the dinner table. Her scent on my shirt sleeve after she'd passed close by, the memory of her fingers tracing lightly through my hair. It followed me through every hour, pulling my thoughts back to her no matter how hard I tried to focus elsewhere. The danger only made the pull stronger. Like gravity, I had no strength left to fight. And then last night, while the house slept and rain began tapping softly at the windows again, Elena paused at the bottom of the stairs on her way back from the kitchen. She looked up at me standing there in the shadows, robe slipping just slightly off one shoulder, and for one long moment neither of us moved. The air thickened once more, heavy with everything we weren't saying. And I felt myself stepping toward her before my mind could catch up. Her fingers brushed my arm first, light as a secret no one else could hear. I didn't mean to close the distance, but the pull was already there, that invisible gravity dragging us together in the quiet hallway. When my lips found hers again, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, tasting like the leftover warmth of wine and something deeper, something that made my breath hitch in my throat. Her body leaned into mine just enough for me to feel the heat through the thin fabric of her robe, her hand resting against my chest as if steadying us both. In that moment, every warning in my head dissolved into nothing but the soft sound of her breathing against my skin. I knew this was the line we had crossed, and crossing it felt like surrender and victory all at once. The weeks after that night became our hidden world, fragile and intoxicating. While my wife was gone during the day, Eleanor and I would find ourselves in the guest room with the door pulled almost shut, the afternoon light filtering through half-drawn curtains. Her warmth wrapping around the loneliness I'd been carrying like an old coat. That familiar vanilla and jasmine scent clung to the air between us, mixing with the faint trace of her skin, making everything feel immediate and real. For the first time in years, I wasn't just existing beside someone. I felt desired, seen in a way that sent sparks through my veins and left me breathless long after we parted. It was relief wrapped in fire, a secret heaven I never knew I was starving for. Yet the guilt began to snake its way in during the quiet hours, cold and insistent. Every evening when my wife came home and brushed a quick kiss against my cheek, murmuring those familiar words of affection, Eleanor's whispered name would echo somewhere deep inside me, sharp as a hidden thorn. I'd catch myself glancing toward the stairs, heart stuttering at the smallest sound, wondering if one wrong look or lingering touch would unravel the fragile threads holding our lives together. Still, the craving didn't fade. It only grew sharper, pulling me back downstairs even when I told myself to stay away, the memory of her closeness too powerful to ignore. How could something that felt this alive be so wrong? I started testing the edges without fully meaning to, my hand grazing hers a second longer than necessary when we passed in the narrow kitchen while my wife was upstairs getting ready. Across the dinner table, our eyes would hold just a beat too long, a silent conversation no one else could hear. Her scent would linger on my sleeve after she'd leaned close to reach for something, and later, alone in my thoughts, the feel of her fingers tracing lightly along my arm would replay until it drowned out everything else. The wrist hummed beneath my skin like electricity, making the stolen moments burn hotter, the pull between us impossible to resist even as fear whispered that we were dancing too close to the edge. But the real weight settled in during those late nights when the house fell silent. Lying there in the dark beside my sleeping wife, I'd replay the way Eleanor's breath had quickened against my neck earlier that day, the soft tremor in her touch that mirrored my own hidden hunger. The ache inside me refused to quiet, growing into something that consumed my waking hours and left me restless, torn between the life I was supposed to protect and the woman who had reminded me what it felt like to truly want. Every shared glance downstairs carried the promise of more, yet the shadow of what we were risking pressed heavier with each passing day. I found myself drawn downstairs again, unable to fight the current any longer. The hallway light was off, but I could feel her presence before I even saw her silhouette near the window, robe slipping slightly off one shoulder as rain traced silver lines down the glass. Eyes meeting mine across the dim room, and the air thickened instantly, heavy with that vanilla jasmine warmth that always seemed to pull me under like invisible tides. My pulse hammered as I stepped closer, stopping just short of where her hand rested on the back of the couch. We didn't speak at first. Just stood there, breath sissening in the quiet storm, her gaze dropping to my mouth for a heartbeat too long before flicking back up. The danger of it all, my wife asleep upstairs, the house holding its breath with us, only made the pull stronger, like gravity tightening its grip when you lean too far over the edge. I reached out, fingers hovering near hers, close enough to feel the heat radiating from her skin without quite touching. "We can't keep doing this," I whispered, voice rough, barely audible over the rain. But even as the words left me, my body betrayed the lie, leaning in until the space between us shrank to nothing but trembling anticipation. Her scent wrapped around me, soft and sweet and utterly forbidden, reminding me how alive I felt in these stolen pockets of night. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers brushed mine under the pretense of steadying herself, sending sparks racing up my arm. We stayed like that, suspended, her breath warm and quick against my collarbone, mine catching in my throat. The almost touch was everything. Electric, aching, a silent confession that neither of us could voice out loud. I told myself to step back, to remember the vows, the family ties, the life we'd both shatter if this slipped. Yet the hunger one, quiet and relentless, drawing me deeper into her orbit. The next days blurred into a fever of careful risks. Quick brushes in the hallway while my wife showered upstairs, my hand grazing the small of her back just long enough to feel her shiver. Late-night messages typed under the covers, her replies lighting up my screen with words that carried the same trembling need I felt. Her scent clung to my clothes now, faint traces that haunted me through meetings and meals, making every ordinary moment throb with secret meaning. I was lost in it, thoughts circling back to her constantly, the memory of her closeness consuming me until the world outside our hidden rhythm felt dull and distant. Guilt gnawed sharper with each passing hour, a cold shadow pressing against the warmth we stole. I catch my wife's tired smile across the dinner table and feel my stomach twist. Elena's soft laugh from the kitchen echoing like an accusation in my mind. One wrong glance, one lingering look, and the fragile balance could crumble, taking everything with it. Her bond with her daughter, my marriage, the home we'd built on years of quiet routine. Still, the craving didn't loosen its hold. If anything, the fear sharpened it, turning each moment into something brighter, more urgent, like flames licking higher because of the wind. Then last week the storm broke in the worst way. Came home early from work, keys jingling in the lock just as Elena's fingers were tracing lightly along my jaw in the dim kitchen. Panic flashed in her eyes, mirroring the ice that shot through my veins. I pulled back fast, heart slamming, but the evidence was there. A faint smear of color on my collar from where she'd leaned too close moments before. We froze, the three of us caught in that terrible suspended second, rain still pattering outside like it knew our secrets. She covered for us somehow, murmuring something about helping with a stain, but the look my wife gave me lingered, questioning, uneasy. That night the house felt smaller, heavier, every creak of the floorboards a potential betrayal. Lying awake beside her, I replayed the terror in Elena's gaze, the way it echoed my own dread of losing it all. This fire we'd kindled wasn't just warming the empty spaces anymore. It threatened to consume the foundations beneath us, leaving nothing but ash and regret. Now the nights stretch endless, me torn between the pull that brought me back to life and the fragile world I'm supposed to guard. I know I should find the strength to end it, to step back before the cracks widen into fractures we can't mend. But when that soft vanillage Esmond drifts up from the pillow, or when I hear her quiet footsteps downstairs after midnight, the ache returns, whispering that maybe this forbidden closeness is the only thing keeping me from fading completely. What does that make me? Someone who chose fleeting heat over lasting peace, or just a man too weak to walk away from the one thing that finally saw him? I lie here wondering if she'll come down tonight, if I'll have the will to turn away, or if we'll keep dancing on this edge until it gives way beneath us both. Honestly, if you'd tasted this kind of alive after years of numbness, could you stop? Or with the hunger win, even knowing the fall that waits? Drop your thoughts below. I need to know I'm not the only one carrying this